everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to your practice. And we have landed here once again in a nice, peaceful space. And we're so excited to share it with you, Angela and I, in our detox practice. So I encourage you to grab a pillow, or if you have a yoga block, have one of those beside you so that we can use them throughout the experience. I hope everybody's doing well. Have some water, something to drink if you want to take a drink, and set yourself up in the quietest place possible. And if there are distractions around you, of course, I always say let those be a part of your practice, but if you can allocate this time and set yourself into an side, listen to the sounds of nature. If the kids are running around, put yourself in anywhere you can and to be a little bit more relaxed, do it, or do it, once they go to bed. This is a great practice to explore once everybody else may be sleeping. So we're going to start. I've got the yoga blocks here. And you can use the yoga block as a pillow. If you don't have a yoga block, use an actual pillow underneath your head. And we call it the block pillow. Let your legs go out straight. Separate your feet as wide. You're going to start to bump into your hips. So once you start to bump right into the width of your hips, then you can soften your feet back a couple inches each way, and then you should be able to release and relax. Big toes out, arms by your sides, palms facing up. Keep in mind we're exploring in the adventure of this practice here at the hot room. We are sitting in probably about 105 or plus degrees in the private studio. We've got a nice insulated boundary and for the heat, but also for the sound, and so it is very quiet. And today I've turned off even the sounds of the humidifier or any fans, and so it's really quiet. We're going with no music today. And you may choose to have some music, ambient music back in the background. But if you'd like to explore the practice with us in silence, and as far as your breath goes throughout this experience, you can keep it pretty well relaxed. If you're forcing the breath, it's harder to settle and let the body settle into the positions. But every now and again in detox, you're in a pose, and whatever's going on and the feelings and the sensations, it feels incredibly right to let out a sound or a sigh or a moan or a groan. But it's not something that you're manufacturing. We get way too conditioned into manufacturing parts of our practice versus falling into our practice and then letting the practice come to us. And so this hour is for you, for the inside out. And as I offer you the space and to be still, even where I stop talking, right, enjoy that. If you drop out, if you fade out, even if you fall asleep, I'll call you back. My voice will come back into the experience, but don't worry if you fall asleep and miss a few poses and then wake up and see where we're at and then go from there. All is well. As you drop in with your body, you may feel the waves of the meditation And moving through you, and see your body is pretty darn good. Releasing attachments when you offer it this type of space. And if you just keep going and persisting in the same habits, patterns, and functions and functionality of your body, it's probably going to pick up and hold on. But if you do something like this into the contrary of your patterns and your habits, and let your body sit in these shapes, you'll see how good your body is at releasing your attachment, which will then guide us into releasing the version of that attachment into your mind and the behavior of your brain. Bring some light movements into your fingers, into your toes. Keep the pillow or the block pillow under your head. And then give yourself a nice big morning, afternoon, or evening stretch. And we're here, it's about 1:30, 1:40 in the afternoon. And take your arms out into a T, nice and wide. Bend both of your legs so that your feet are flat. If you think about 1:30 or 1:40 in the afternoon, in the context of most people's day, you would probably say that it doesn't seem likely or reasonable and to be on a yoga mat and to be settling in a practice like this into a deep state of relaxation, contemplation once in a while, opening up your curiosity to observe, but also healing or functional elements and to loosen up the fascia and the connective tissue in your body. Right? 1:30 in the afternoon, 1:40 in the afternoon. Well, my life used to be dictated by that schedule, right? The schedule that conditions us and keeps us going throughout most of our lives, and go to work at 9, leave work at 5, but then that turns into 6, and then 7, and then 8, and then getting in at 8 or even 7, and then staying till 6. And that's one way of doing it. But this is also another way of doing it. And switch the block, take it from behind your head. Bring it down by your waist. If you have a pillow, that's great. Anything to elevate and support the elevation of your hips and your pelvis. So, lowest height with the block if you've got it. And then let's straighten the legs out. And so we're starting to create a tent-like shape with our body. And it could be a light sensation. If it's something more dramatic, than a light sensation across in the front of your hips and your waist, and then you maybe want to use something that is just a little bit lower. Experience. legs. Let's bend your legs down onto the mat. Use your feet to lift your hips an inch, and so that you can take your block or your prop out from underneath, and your hips come all the way down onto the ground. It may feel nice to separate your feet a little bit wider and let your knees fall back in towards each other. And when your focus is allowing your body to let go, and the understanding builds that your body actually lets go pretty quickly. So if you explore that sensation at which you may have been feeling when the hips were elevated, it's probably or nearly completely gone at this point. So your body's able to let go of it. So the questions become, why is the mind so inclined to hold on to these stories, or to hold on to the past, or to hold on to a belief, or to hold on to anything for a longer period of time, and to protect us? But in other ways, it could just be a lot of energy and expenditure output versus support. And separate your knees if they're together. And you can bring your pillow or your block with you. Open your eyes if they're closed. And make your way up to a seat. And so we're facing the top of your mat. Swing your right leg behind you. And we're going to set up a single pigeon. And square your hips. And left shin is far forward until you're feeling the sensation in your outer hip. And then you can take it from here, anywhere from your palms. Explore your forearms or a block. And I'm going to go with the block under my chest today. You'll always hear me mention to take a scan across your mouth and your jaw and the muscles on your face. And as you participate with that practice, you'll see where you're holding on to tension or tightness, and you can mindfully and consciously release it in an instant. It does not take long. And your body is really great at letting go of the attachment. Now, if your body has some more chronic sensation, something that you feel every day that you wake up, and you feel it when you go to bed at night, now that's a little bit more interesting. Why is the body not willing to let go of that attachment? Could be an injury, could be an acute source of inflammation. And so then we bring ourselves into a practice like this, and where we have more time and space to investigate. And reminder, never sitting in pain, in physical pain. You can always make a little adjustment as long as you're still feeling it on the outer left hip, and then set yourself in so that you're pretty much still for the duration of your meditation.
If you find yourself in these shapes and your mind is racing to any degree, let it happen. No need to control it or force it. There's no such thing as in requiring your mind to slow down simply because you're releasing your body. In some practices, you may find more relaxation than others on that mental layer. It's all good. You're in it either way. And from where you are, use your hands to begin to bring yourself back up. And you can rock off onto your left hip, left thigh out the way in, bringing your right leg forward. And if you want to bring your block or your pillow with your back just like we started. And feel the release from the left hip crease. Relax the legs long. And you can feel this flush. A lot of times you're in this pigeon pose going back to down dogs in your flows. But here you can really feel the flush and flow going all the way back down through your leg and your knee, and down into your ankles, back into your toes. See if when you close your eyes you see any particular color. And obviously you'd be influenced if you were outdoors and the light was shining on you. And bring it back if you drifted. Fingers and toes. And when you're ready, no rush, and we'll make our way back up to a seat, setting up pigeon on your right leg being forward. And your left leg swings back behind you. And set any props and support yourself underneath your chest. You know, it is one of the more common areas of the body, the human body, especially in the West, holding our tension. It's one thing there, but it's also based on that repetition of activity. If you're doing the same thing, if you're walking to the same place, if you're driving in the car for an hour, right, that's more of the conditioning that you're experiencing in your body. And so you just look at whatever those patterns might be, and having a practice like this gives you the space into it. And even if it's for a couple minutes while you're in a posture, and giving your body something different to feel. And therefore you're evolving your relationship with your mind and the interpretation of stress and what that means in the central nervous system. At one point when you start this practice, you may feel the stress and the heat, and it may take you off your mat. It's too overwhelming. Your nervous system is in fight or flight, and so you fly. And then little by little over time, you revisit the postures, being in stillness. Is the whole thing with meditation. It is not a destination, is not something that you have to do or show up to. If you incorporate it as part of your framework in daily practice, you may start to experience the benefits. And part of your practice can be falling in so deep that you even lose track, or you're less attached to time, and so you really don't even know how long and you may be sitting in a pose. Let's bring it back and feel it. It will change. It'll change fast. Go slow. Right hip. Bring your block with you. Lie down like we started. Sometimes you'll feel like these little heartbeats in your hips. And if your knees are really tight, you'll certainly feel pigeon in your knees. Make a light stretch, arms over your head. Point your toes. And let's do a seated butterfly. Use your arms. You can keep your block where it is and come all the way back up to a seat. And soles of your feet meet. Your knees apart, and you've got your butterfly legs. If you're tighter or holds you more back in this position, then if you're more open in that structure, bring your feet in closer, crawl your fingers forward. And then set yourself in a rounded passive flex state, and if you get a sharp shooting or a pinching sensation in your low back, come up so that that sensation doesn't exist, and then you can settle here. going to keep your eyes closed on this side. Start to walk your hands in. Cross your right shin in front of your left. And then remove the roundedness of your spine, shoulders over your hips, head above your heart. And take a moment here and to observe. You're grounded, or I invite you to be grounded. And pick up on with what you're feeling inside of you. If you don't necessarily have a more traditional seated meditation practice, a minute like this is a great way to introduce yourself and see how things before getting to this place. But you may notice in the representation of your center, your mind a little less busy. Your thoughts can still be moving, but we're not grabbing onto them as much. Your eyes open in transition, and bring your right leg behind you. You tuck the top of the foot into the mat, and your left leg can stay bent, and we're going to go towards the upper right thigh into the hip as you make your way down onto your left elbow. And we can open across the chest and then make our way down onto the right elbow, or all the way down onto your shoulders. Okay, our block is there, the pillow underneath your head if you need it, and it's okay if your right knee is hovering off the ground like mine is. If it's flat to the ground, that's okay. Just check in, make sure you're not putting too much torque and pressure into the knee. body may start in a certain position or a certain place in the position, and then as it opens up, you'll find that you can settle a little bit more. We're simply not adjusting ourselves up. Of course, not sitting in pain. Discomfort and sensation is okay. We can sit and watch these occur, but if you're sitting in pain, that's too much. You make an adjustment, find a place where you can settle. And from your back, we made our way from our left elbow down to the right elbow. And so if you start to turn yourself towards the left, use your left arm into your right hand. And you can make your way back up. Use your right hand to your right ankle and to bring your right leg forward. And so feeling the release into your right leg and through your knee, tuck your left foot into your right inner leg. And then crawl your hands forward and fold. Let your head get heavy. Should feel good. And it's been quite the expression thus far of taking ourselves out, opening our fronts and then coming back in and letting ourselves round down. your hands in, roll yourself up, feel your spine to the line, to the stack, and to a release. And set ourselves up on the other side. Bend your right leg at the top, swing your left leg back behind you. To get your left foot tucked, recline back onto your right elbow, and then down onto your left elbow, down onto your back. Sometimes putting yourself in a funky position and letting all the sensation be explored by your mind is enough. And to disintegrate, eliminate some of the stress, a lot of the stress. In the hot room here, I presented us with a very simple contrast that tends to make people very happy, and that is to open the door. And so you've been sitting in a climate, it's hot, your body's sweating to keep yourself cool. And then you allow in the outside air, the contrast. And the cool air sweeps over your skin. And the sweat, it evaporates and cools you down even more. And kind of melts your mind, again, from an attachment perspective. Lean over to your right side a little bit. Use your right elbow in your left hand. As you bring yourself back up to a seat, left leg comes out in front, sole of your right foot, inner left thigh like a tree leg. And crawl your hands forward and feel the release fold. Drop and practice into our body and functioning far less in our minds. Because remember, the mind is an interesting place to exist. When you're moving, you wish you could be still. When you're still, your mind says, I want to move. And consider this practice setting you up, and for a seated meditation, crawl your hands in and feel the stack of your spine. Cross your left leg in front of your right shin. Sit cross-legged. And if you'd like your pillow or your blanket or your block under your bum, you can set that, and so you can explore this lightness in relation from your hips into your low back into your spine. So we're hovering some more space around the heart. You relax your hamstrings, the back side of your legs, the upper legs as you sit.